Good morning. Good morning. Please be seated. I'm Reed Carroll, Vice Mayor for the City of Siloam Springs. We're pleased to have Governor Hutchinson in Siloam Springs today. Thank you, Governor, for continuing your fight against COVID-19. We're all seeing the devastation this virus can do. Our friends, family members, co-workers, and neighbors are being affected. As you tour across the state, it is not lost that you chose to visit Siloam Springs. Like many communities, we are working to balance health and economy. Your presence is greatly appreciated. Thank you to each resident in attendance today as well. We appreciate your feedback and consideration as we work together to return to normal. We kindly ask that you please treat each other with respect, allow others to speak their mind, and do not interrupt the person speaking. Your input is appreciated and noted. Please join me in welcoming Governor Asa Hutchinson to Siloam Springs.
Wow. Well, thank you, Reed, and I am so thrilled to be here, and this is incredible crowd that's here at a very awkward time of the day for a town hall meeting, which is right in the middle of the workday. So it really expresses the interest of this community and the opportunity to have a good conversation. This, first of all, brings back a lot of memories to me being in this facility. I think this is where I used to have Youth for Christ rallies years and years ago, and so I always have fond memories coming here to Siloam. My dad, we lived over on the Spavinaw Creek by Gravett, and we bought our vehicles at Bynum Motor Company over here. So it's all about Siloam from my standpoint, but it's great to be in the community today. And I want to thank Reed for the introduction, the city for being able to host this morning. I want to thank Northwest Health. I believe they have vaccine opportunities out here, and so thank you for helping to set that up. And then Judge Barry Mooring is here as well, that's come over for this. Our Senator Jim Hendren, legislators. Are there any legislators here? Who do we got? Representative Gayla McKenzie, thank you for joining us today. Very good. Well, with that, let me just, do we have any other mayors that are here from other cities? Any educators that are here? All right, educators, teachers. Do we have any school superintendents here? All right, so nobody wants to identify themselves. We'll go on here. I got you over by the fireplace there. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Benton County. If you all remember, it was probably 2.5 months ago that I set a goal that we would be 50% of our entire population vaccinated. We'd be at the 50% vaccination rate for the entire population. Well, as a state, we have not made that goal, and I said we'd make it by July 31st. But we've had 10 counties make that goal, and Benton County is one of them with 50.7% of our entire population here vaccinated. So give you a round of applause. Just to put that in perspective, Carroll County is at 39.5%, Madison County 38.6%, Washington County 51.5%. They made the goal as well. But you can see the distinction between rural counties and cities or counties that had a greater population base that they have done better in terms of the vaccination. Now, in Siloam Springs itself, do we have a graph on that that you could put up? We'll see. All right, so the flag is here. So this has got Benton, Carroll, Madison, and Washington County, and these are 18 and older. So I gave you the total population, but this puts it at 18 and older, so you can see and combine the numbers because the darker one is fully immunized, the lighter one is partially immunized. So it's about 55% in Benton County, and you can see how the different counties rank. But here in Siloam Springs, 18 and plus, I've got 45.7% combined with those who have been partially and fully vaccinated. So everybody, 45% here in Siloam Springs has gotten one shot. Now, that's not something to applaud about because that's lower than where we want it to be. In fact, the western part of Benton County has been slower in vaccination rates than other parts of it. And so that's what we're here to talk about. And so it sounds like some people want low vaccination rates. Okay. So again, let's be respectful. We want to hear from everybody, but let's make a few comments and we'll turn it open for discussion. But I also want to put this in perspective in terms of COVID. On June 7th, that's less than 2 months ago, June 7th, we had active cases in Arkansas right at 1,600 active cases. Less than 2 months later, July 29th, we're at 17,200 active cases. If you look at new cases per day, on June 7th, we had 62 new cases that day. Yesterday, we had 2,843 new COVID cases in the state of Arkansas. If you look at hospitalizations, on June 7th, we were down to 175 COVID patients hospitalized across Arkansas. Less than 2 months later, at 1,055. So you can see what's happened in the last 2 months and what is the reason for this dramatic change. Well, first of all, we have a new variation of the virus that has come to bear, and that is the Delta variant. The Delta variant is more transmissible than the original virus. It is more transmissible, and it is twice as likely to lead to hospitalization or more serious symptoms. And so, for those reasons, high transmissibility, we've seen this shoot up. The second issue is low vaccination rates. Now, you look at states in the Northeast that has 60+% vaccination rate, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, they don't have the same level of cases each day, hospitalizations per capita, that we have in Arkansas. And to me, the distinction, you can look at the vaccination rate. I believe there's urgency about this discussion because we have school starting in a couple of weeks. And school starts, we want to have football, we want to have basketball, we want to have Razorback football, we want to have crowds in the stadium, and the best way to get there is simply to make sure everybody either has the vaccination or they can take other public health precautions. These town halls that I've been having, and I think this is about my 12th town hall or community COVID conversation across Arkansas, and these community conversations have been helpful because we hear honest opinions, everybody is respectful, and those that want to do something about vaccinations gets the information that they need. I have Dr. Jose Romero here that is my state health director, who's a pediatrician as well as somebody who leads in public health. And we also have do we have any local doctors that are here? Thank you. Identify your name, please. Thank you for being here. And so we've got local trusted officials as well that are here. And but school is coming. We want to get back to normal. And these town halls, since we've been having them, we've had a 40% increase in our vaccinations in Arkansas. And so we are pleased with that. And much of it's because there's a limit. In fact, we're past that limit as to what the government can say we ought to do. It is about individual decisions. It is about people getting the right information and making the right decision. And it's about communities that are taking action and saying, what do we need to do to make sure Siloam Springs High School and our students are protected? What do we need to do to make sure we can have our band, we can have our choral, we can have our football, our basketball? What's it going to take to have the community and the festivals that we want here? What does it take? What does the leadership need to be at the local level? So with that, I will stop because this is to listen to you. And so we've got a microphone here. You can make a comment briefly. You can ask a question. I might call on somebody to answer it. We'll do the best that we can. And just be respectful as someone else makes a point. So with that, the floor is open. I look forward to hearing from everybody. I saw, yes ma'am, right back there first. This is the first lady I saw, right there. Right, no, right in front of you, right there.
Hi, my name is Patsy Bedford, and I taught in Gravett for 20 years with your sister, so I have a real concern about the Gravett Hospital there. My daughter works there, and they're getting ready to say probably mandatory vaccines for all of them. She does not believe in doing that, but it's a non-state facility. And does this Act 462, would that apply to Gravett Hospital? Since it's non-state?
No, it does not. If that's a privately owned hospital, then any privately owned business can make their own decisions as to whether they want to require vaccinations or whether they want to require masks or whether they want to have other requirements within their workforce. So the laws that we have passed in the legislature does not restrict private businesses, and I know that I think it's Mercy Health in Rogers has already required that. I think there's a number of other hospitals that are going to be requiring that within their venues, and it's not a state-mandated thing. It is simply they're making decisions for their workforce, but also their patients and health.
Another question, wouldn't that be a violation of her civil rights to make a person be vaccinated or lose their job?
So, well, I mean, first of all, you have to ask some of those questions to practicing lawyers and civil rights experts, but I did practice law for 25 years, and the answer is that, it's a freedom of choice as to where you work. You can work somewhere, you can work someplace else, particularly in this environment. And, if you're running, whether you're running a cruise line or whether you're running a hospital or you're running a nursing home in which people have died, and you have a responsibility to take steps to protect the patient's health, you don't want to get sued, and so you want to take what actions they believe is necessary, and that is their freedom as somebody who operates a business. Yes, ma'am, right here.
I would like to respectfully address our campaign to vaccinate Arkansas children. I'm just going to read something I wrote out. I'm a mother to 4 children who fall in the able to be vaccinated category, ages 12 to 18. As of this time, I do not feel comfortable having my kids vaccinated, and this puts me in an interesting position of being called an anti-vaxxer, when in fact all of my kids, save one who is immunocompromised, are fully vaccinated. We are bombarded at every single turn and by every single news, radio, and television source, and now even our schools, that the COVID-19 vaccines have been proven safe for children ages 12 and up, and that we should go get them vaccinated. This vaccine was never tested on this age group. I have yet to see any studies done on this age group or safety studies presented. I have consulted with some trusted medical professionals that care for our family and sought counsel, and they have actually discouraged me from vaccinating my children until more safety studies have been presented. This was a quote by one of them: "We do not understand everything about the virus and the vaccine against it. And the first commandment of medicine is first do not harm. It has become increasingly evident that the vaccine does not present the spread of the virus, and we have no idea how long it offers protection.
Okay.
I would like to request tighter testing for kids and families.
Higher test?
T-cell titer testing is different than antibody testing. For the families that have had COVID, like us, in January, where our whole family was down for a month, but yet we are being told our children will be quarantined if they do not get vaccinated. Why are we vaccinating against those that have already had the disease?
All right, thank you. Thank you for those questions. Let me respond briefly, and of course, Dr. Romero, I'll ask you to grab the microphone here on some of the medical questions. But first of all, that's as a parent, no one's going to vaccinate your child without your permission, and so that's a decision that you can make, and we simply ask people to talk to your trusted advisor. It sounds like that you have, and you make a decision for your child. And it sounds like many some of your family have already had COVID, and you can make that judgment. There's no state mandate, there's no state requirement, it's just simply your choice. But I also have to address it from a public health standpoint as a state, knowing that we're going to be living with people dying if we do not increase our vaccination rates. So I still need to get that message out. All right, Dr. Romero. So I'm thinking that you all had it. So, ma'am, don't give her the mic.
It's being graded out by the WHO in October or November because they said the COVID PCR test cannot differentiate between the COVID-19 and the flu virus. That's from the WHO.
All right, so I want to have Dr. So we'd like to have people have an opportunity to say something, but also for us to be able to respond. This lady made a very good presentation, which I respect and I appreciate. I'd like to have Dr. Romero address that.
So there is data on the safety of these vaccines in children. They were presented as part of the licensure or the EUA process and presented to the ACIP for policy. So as we look at it today, these vaccines are safe and effective. Now you ask a very good question. Why do you need to get the vaccination if you have already been infected? So we know that individuals who have been infected do not have sufficient antibody titers or protection to protect them. And now that we know that individuals are being reinfected, and in particular because of the Delta virus, which is now the problem, all individuals who have previously been infected and have not received a vaccine should receive the vaccine in order to give them full protection against this virus. I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
We have a question right here, or a comment.
So explain to me why there are so many that have the vaccine that are getting the virus. I know a specific case nearby, it's across the state line, but nearby at a camp. There was a group of counselors, it had an outbreak, a bunch of them came down with the virus, and more than the majority of them had the vaccine. They all had the same symptoms and the same duration. So why do we need the vaccine?
Well, the answer is that if you have a vaccine.
I have cancer. People like you are going to keep me from getting surgery. I have notes from my nurse. My cancer is set for September 14th.
So just saying, ma'am, so let me answer.
It's not. It's the people that are being intubated because they won't get a shot.
So it's sort of hard to have a.
When you won't take the shot.
Ma'am.
Then you want medical intervention.
So let's address it one at a time. Otherwise, we're not going to have a successful conversation. And I've had 11 or 12 very successful conversations around Arkansas. I don't want this to break down in SILOAM. And so the question is, why are people who are vaccinated contracting COVID? And the answer is, if you have a 90% effective rate of a vaccine, then that means 1 out of 10 people who are vaccinated are going to get COVID. And so, but what 98% of that is you will prevent hospitalization or serious illness with the vaccine. Dr. Romero, do you want to comment?
Yes, so what the governor said is correct. Well, also, let me add to that. So the virus that is currently circulating, called the Delta variant, is not the same virus that we originally saw during the start of this outbreak. We now know that this virus can multiply, can replicate in individuals that are vaccinated. But the vaccine protects you from having the worst of the complications, that is, being in the hospital and dying. So this is a vaccine that is still successful, and that is why we recommend it for everyone that is eligible for it.
Right here's a question. Yes.
Governor Hutchinson, I'm Dennis Abel from Rogers. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for everything you do to try to keep all the citizens of Arkansas safe. To me, the answer is quite simple. Get vaccinated. Now, from this morning's Democrat Gazette, it says, since January 1st, people who had not been vaccinated made up 96.4% of the state's cases, 95.4% of its hospitalizations, and 97.4% of its death from COVID-19. They go on to quote you, that should be an encouragement to anybody who's concerned about their health in their community to get vaccinated. And I totally agree with that. My question or recommendation to you is, why not open up these press conferences or any type of public meeting by quoting those very enlightening statistics? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point. We'll try to continue to emphasize that. Now, I want to be respectful of people who've held. I see a gentleman right here and a lady here, so let's go to. All right, and then let's go back to this gentleman right in the middle there after that.
Thank you. My name is Dana Renfro. I'm from Gravette, Arkansas. I grew up in Rogers, lived in Bentonville, and now I'm in Gravette. I think that we all know what the truth is, and it is time to start accepting what the truth is. We know that this is the emperor who has no clothes, and we need to accept that. We know what the survival rate is of COVID. Do we really want to go back to where we were? Do we really want to go back and lock down? It's time to accept the truth, and I believe that you know what the truth is.
Is your point that we should lock down?
No, my point is that do we want to go back to that point, because that's where we're headed.
Yeah, and absolutely we don't.
We don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
But we know the truth about the survival rate, and I'm here to say that we know what the truth is, but we need to accept what the truth is.
All right, thank you. And let me assure everyone that there are no mandates, there are no restrictions against businesses in Arkansas. The purpose of this town hall meeting is to talk about vaccinations, and so all right. So let's come on, Jeremy. Who's got this one? We got it. Is that what you got there?
Governor, if you don't mind, if I could respectfully come to the front and share my story with the community. Can I?
Okay.
Come to the front.
Sure. Just stand up where you are. Use the microphone.
I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. I'm really scared. This is not political. It shouldn't be political. This is life or death, and I saw that with my own eyes this week. I hope I can advocate for the families that have immunocompromised family members. I hear you. I see you. My brother almost died on Monday. We had to call an ambulance, and they told us all of the hospitals were diverting and we had nowhere to go. We had to sign forms that said if we were to be discharged, we would go against medical advice and it would be a result in death, and there were no hospital beds available. Like he said, it's your choice to get the vaccine. You aren't here to be forced to get the vaccine, but you are here to hear our stories. I grew up here. I spent every February here dancing with my dad at the daddy-daughter dance. How many of you in here are parents? How many of you in here love your family? How many of you in here are a sibling? I have one sibling. One. Give your children the gift of a safe childhood so this December they can come up here and meet Santa. So they can come, huh? Yes, yes. My brother's lungs function at 40%. He is chronically ill. He has had to wear a mask. He has only left the house this whole pandemic to go get the vaccine, and he's still alive. His lungs function at 40%, and he double masks, and he doesn't complain. He's in the hospital right now fighting for his life, not with COVID, for his own pre-existing medical conditions. His own pre-existing medical conditions, and he almost did not get the care he needed because the hospitals are filling up. Governor, you reached out to the White House to get financial assistance to get more beds in the state. That shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening.
All right. Thank you. That's, and we're pulling for your brother as well. Right in the middle, I know. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for coming. So my question is about the efficacy of the vaccine. A few minutes ago, you said it was 99% effective, but according to... No. I said 96? It was 90% effective against contracting it. It's 98% that you're not going to go to the hospital. Okay, I apologize. But according to July metadata from the government of the United Kingdom, 50% of their hospitalizations and 50% of their deaths have been within the community who is double vaccinated. And when you look at Israel, you see that I believe the number is 87.1% of their seniors who have contracted COVID and died have also been double vaccinated. So when you're seeing so many people in these countries who are double vaccinated getting this vaccine, going to the hospital, and dying from it, why do your numbers differ from the studies that are happening in the United Kingdom and Israel?
Yeah. Dr. Miller?
So I can't comment without actually looking at your specific studies and to see what they're actually looking at. The disease is different in different countries because of the mandates and other things that are in place in those countries. So at this point, without looking at the data, I don't think we can offer a comment. But what we can tell you is that the data in this country indicates that it is an effective vaccine in preventing hospitalizations and death.
So thank you, and sir, we're happy to look at the data that you're referencing, but it's really contrary to all the data that we've received, particularly the United States. And I think that here in the United States, without any question, the statistics that I'm citing are what we've experienced in Arkansas and elsewhere. We're happy to look at that, though. All right, who's next? Okay. Okay. Well.
Hi, my name is Sandy Berteau. I lived in Siloam Springs for years. I live in Lowell now. I have a type of cancer that's called squamous cell carcinoma. I've been fighting the cancer for almost 4 years now. This will be my third bout with it. My surgery at UAMS is set for September 14th right now. They're going to take out the right side of my tongue, and they're going to sew a piece from my forearm onto my tongue, and then sew pieces from my legs onto my forearm. So if I get a chance to go into the hospital and get the surgery done, I'll be there 5 days. A nurse will check my skin grafts every hour for 24 hours in the specialized unit of the hospital that is for head and neck surgery and cancers. I'll be able to come home. I'll come home with a feeding tube. I'll have a tracheotomy, and I'll have to have a lot of care at home, and I'll have to learn to talk again for the third time. This will probably be the best that I'll be able to talk for a while. After that, it'll be on my Kindle. I won't be able to eat or talk, but these are the notes from my nurse about what's going on at the hospital. I asked if there was a chance that my surgery could be canceled. She said, this is at UAMS, and this is on July 28th. Hi, Ms. Berteau. Unfortunately, pretty much any surgery, with the exception of an emergent airway, trauma, etc., is considered elective. Last year, we did have to shut down, but the hospital's pulling out all the stops to prevent that again. With all that being said, I'm meeting with the OR admin daily to try to creatively find more spaces for our patients. I know I can't offer anything tangible at this moment, but I promise you, I'm working on getting your surgery moved up. Unfortunately, the Metro, and specifically UAMS, cares for a large part of the state, and we have been hit hard by this. With vaccination rates increasing, we're hoping we can beat this surge, but to put it plainly, the number of sick patients we're seeing now is blowing last year out of the water. I'll keep in touch and update you the second I find something out. They do surgeries in 2-week increments, so I won't know until the beginning of September whether I will actually get the surgery or whether the cancer will spread. I've already had surgeries on my neck and my mouth. If you don't get vaccinations, there are people that are a lot sicker than I am. I see them at my PET scans. I see them at my CAT scans. I see them at Hope Cancer, and I saw them at UAMS that are wheeled in on gurneys that have the same cancer I do, and it's scary to watch what can happen, to know that I can lose part of my face, my jaw, my shoulder, while I'm waiting for you guys to get vaccines.
All right,
so that I can get rid of my cancer.
Ma'am, thank you. So I'm going to come. Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. All right, so we're gonna go. I'm grateful for what you said, and it's very real. The hospital shortage, it's absolutely very real. I think what we agree on is that COVID is real. People get sick from. All right, so let's identify. Would you all like to be recognized with them, or would you just like to yell? I would like to have one person that would speak. Will somebody wish to speak from the corner here? All right, so I hear you. Let's give the gentleman the microphone, then we'll come up here.
My name is Tom Mulcahy. I live in Springdale. 2 questions. The whole question about vaccinated people spreading COVID, getting sick. Will the governor and the medical officer promise the state that 100% of the people who are tested or go into the hospital for COVID are tested whether they're vaccinated or not, and you actually show the facts that they're vaccinated or not. The key is we need to know, are they vaccinated? The lady back here just said the CDC just changed the rules that you actually run the PCR test higher for a non-vaccinated person than a vaccinated person. There are several hospitals in the United States that are not asking the vaccinated question. I think that's primary. That's our data point. Once that data is gone and we don't collect it, there's no way, and I'm a data guy, there's no way you can recreate it. We need to have that so we can make an informed decision. Number one. Number two is, what's in the vaccine? Give me the insert sheet. If informed consent means you tell me what you put in my body. If Mr. Doctor gives me a vial and says, trust me, I'll give you a vial, you trust me. No. Let's see what's in the vaccine. Let's track the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated in the population to understand what's really going on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let me ask you a question, and we'll have Dr. Romero respond to some of this. But let me ask you a question. Do you believe COVID is real?
I believe there's people dying of illnesses. I'm not quite sure what COVID is. COVID has never effectively been isolated out of a human cells. Has it? Prove it to me where the study is, where they've shown SARS-CoV-2 SARS-CoV-2 isolated out of a human sample. Okay. Show me.
All right, so first of all, there's two questions have been asked. One is, are we testing everybody? Do we really know how many that have COVID are vaccinated or not? What's the answer to that?
So the answer is we don't test everybody. We have a sample that is given to us from the hospital. Not every hospital sends us a sample. So for samples that we're testing, we have data. I believe his second question, Governor, was what's in the vaccine. Right. So that information is available to you on the internet. It is listed in the product information. It's available through the CDC. And if you cannot find it, we at the health department will be happy to provide you the ingredients.
No, let's go to somebody else. You've asked. Let's go right up here. All right. So right up here, who's next? Stephanie. All right, and then we'll do our best here.
As was just mentioned, this is an experimental vaccine. And what are the long-term side effects of this vaccine? We don't know. Okay, it has not been tested long enough. I'm a nurse. I'm very concerned about the long-term side effects. And also, are you aware of the Nuremberg Code that applies to medical research? And it says, the first few lines of the Nuremberg Code says the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision.
Okay, thank you. Well, no one is being vaccinated without their consent. So, okay. All right. All right. So. So,
it's up to me to weigh the pros and cons based on my own personal health and medical situation.
All right.
And you're making it very difficult by encouraging people to shame and blame.
You know, who's next?
Good morning, Governor. On the data points, where are the deaths? Where are the recovery rates? You didn't mention the recovery rate in Arkansas or the death rate. So where are those numbers?
Well, we have that data. Doc.
Why isn't it mentioned? I mean, you're mentioning these. If you're hang on, I'm asking a question. If this is as dangerous as it is and people are dying, we should know how many people are dying. But you didn't say.
It's on the public health website. If you go to the Arkansas Department of Health, all of that data is on there that you could look at on your phone. Dr. Romero?
So that data is updated daily. I review that data. It is available to the public simply by going to our website. We continue to update that daily. I can tell you that yesterday we had well, the death rate,
Sir,
that information is available on the website by looking at each day.
All right, so we have a question here. So, sir, you had an opportunity to speak. Sir, you've had an opportunity to speak at length. I hope that you'll give the respect to the others that they'll have an opportunity to speak. Yes.
Hi, Governor Hutchinson. Am I on? All right. Governor Hutchinson, it's good to see you. I thank you for being here, and Dr. Romero. I actually like to thank all of our legislature for your thoughtful leadership during this time. I'm Deborah Varela. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist. And so when I thank you, it's as president of our association on behalf of our 800 members. What I know is that medical things, because I do practice anesthesia, evoke fear that's reasonable. And people deal with fear in a different way. One of the best ways to combat fear is, of course, through knowledge. I have absolute understanding where you're coming from. I'm sorry I forgot your name in the green and in the white. I do practice where, for a time, we couldn't do elective cases at all. That switched around and was a great thing, because some things that we might consider elective, in your case, are truly not. And it's just heart-wrenching for me to think that, one, you have to anticipate the surgery, potentially not get your surgery. And then when you get it, and I've actually had this situation in the past week, because our hospital accepts patients that have critically ill people on ventilators. Perhaps some of the rural hospitals don't have full beds, but I can assure you, larger facilities we do. But to drop off a patient in recovery room, not knowing if they'll be able to get a bed, that's how we cancel cases. When I walk in the morning and our emergency room is full of patients waiting to be seen, that's how we have to cancel cases that, like I said, often aren't elective. So I just ask that people sort of inform yourselves. Statistics are dynamic with regard to something like this. It's not disingenuous. Science evolves as we go along. So anyway, I just appreciate your time. I hope that you'll sort of address your fears through knowledge. And thank you.
Thank you. And I think the key thing is everybody should go to the trusted advisor. Usually it's a medical care professional, and ask their opinion on it. Get your information. Thank you, ma'am. And so who's next? I'm asking, go ahead, whoever you say is next.
Thank you, Governor, so much for being here in a rough crowd. I really appreciate that you take the time to hear us. I am a former pediatric nurse, and I am the mother of 8 children. And when I was a pediatric nurse, I have given thousands of doses of vaccines until I learned that some vaccines are cultured in aborted fetal tissue. Currently, every SARS-2 COVID vaccine that's available on the market is manufactured using aborted fetal tissue. As a result, some Christians and other faiths don't feel that it's biblically acceptable for them to participate in the vaccine. However, there are many businesses in Northwest Arkansas, namely healthcare facilities, that have chosen to either mandate or are considering a mandate for their employees. Because of this, much like in the book of Daniel, these Christians are forced to either bow to the authorities who are wishing to persuade them to do something they feel is immoral, or they need to obey God. So, Governor, I have been praying that God himself will step in so that Christians are not forced by their employers and a mandate to get the vaccine. Yet, even if God does not, I will not bow. And with all respect, Governor, we love you and appreciate you, but God will not hold you guiltless if you fail to stand up for the Christians who believe it is in their right to abstain from the vaccine. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and you have a lovely family. So let me talk about that a little bit. I mean, first of all, I am pro-life. I've signed every bit of pro-life legislation. I value life, and I did understand the concern about certain lines of embryos that was used in research. I know that there's some ethical Christian organizations that have endorsed the vaccine. Notwithstanding that, I couldn't get technical about it. But secondly, and Dr. Romero can respond to this more technically, but it's my understanding that one vaccine had that line of embryo research, but that the others did not. Can you elaborate, Dr. Romero?
So thank you for those questions and your concerns. So there are alternatives. No fetal tissue is used to create any of these vaccines. There are several vaccines available. As the governor said, there is an alternative, if you wish, that has no fetal tissue in it. None of these have fetal tissue in them. The cell line that was used to derive them, okay, and that may be what you're referring to, is derived from fetus very, very, very long ago. That had nothing to do with this. But these are cell lines. They are not fetuses. They are independent. They are at this point now what we call continuous cell lines. They grow on their own.
Shh, just a second, please. So, but that's our concern, is that one cell line, but right. That is one vaccine. There's two other vaccines. So address the other one.
So the vaccine which I think you're referring to is no, right now there are three vaccines available in this country, two different methodologies, right? So the RNA vaccines, okay, are not derived, do not have anything to do with fetal tissue. I can provide you with the information on that. The other vaccines do use fetal-derived tissues from long ago.
So ma'am, let me conclude. We're not, I respect your opinion totally, and my goodness, you follow God. That's important. And I think in the history of vaccine, when I grew up over in Gravette, I went to school and I had a lot of vaccine shots. I mean, it was required before you go to school that you get the vaccines. But there's always a religious exception that we've honored. And so I respect what you've said. So who's yelling now? Okay, let's let this lady speak.
Thank you. First, I want to apologize. I haven't meant to be rude, but I understand this lady's issue with the cancer, and my heart goes out to her. But I have a son right now who is suffering from intermittent paralyzation from the waist down, and that's not having the vaccine. That's not a vaccine injury. But in that situation, it would be beyond dangerous for him to get it. And I know you are not talking about mandating the vaccine at this point, and that may not be on your heart at this point. But here's my concern, sir. Mercy Hospital right now is about ready to let hundreds of thousands of employees gone across the nation because they're mandating it. Our military is now having it mandated to buy them by Biden, and Biden is now talking about federal mandations. And other businesses, as they see the hospital and the military getting away with mandations, are going to start mandating it for other people. And my husband could lose his job, my sons could lose. If people talk about, well, if your company mandates it, just leave, find another job. But it's going to get to the point where everybody just starts mandating it out of fear, and they don't realize how statistics are manipulated. I took a statistics class in high school statistics, and at that point I learned how many different ways you can calculate the numbers. And the honest people will choose the calculation that is most accurate and most representative of the truth. But if they are not truthful, they can choose another method and they can manipulate the numbers. And Mercy, I have already talked to several of the nurses and doctors, and they have confirmed that the CDC has told them that they are no longer to report positive COVID cases from vaccinated patients to manipulate the numbers so that they can continue to push the fear that this is an unvaccinated pandemic. And one last thing, this is also a personal thing. My mom was in a car accident, paralyzed from the waist down back in February of last year. I haven't been able to see her because of the whole COVID thing. I have a physical thing. I cannot wear a mask. It's not an option. I have a letter from my doctor. I haven't seen my mother in over 15 months. My dad and her both got the vaccination out of fear. Thank God they are healthy and they are well, and it didn't affect them adversely. I am so thankful. But my dad has now contracted COVID. He's fully vaccinated. He's getting sicker. He may be headed towards the hospital, and he can't see my mom. They are both vaccinated. The numbers, again, are being manipulated to try to force unvaccinated people towards a mandated vaccine. And I know you may not see that now, but it's down the road. Everything that was a conspiracy 6 months ago is now coming to fruition. Right. And 6 months ago, the story's going to be different.
Thank you. Thank you. That's right here.
Michael Battenfield. I'm a pastor in Cave Springs. You know what we can observe right here in this room? We have distrust. You know why there's distrust? Because for the last 18 plus months, we have been fed information that we now can't even sort through. We gripe about social media, well, it's spreading disinformation, when we've had now verifiable disinformation from our own authorities, some in this room. We hear arguments about statistics. We go back to January. How many people were vaccinated in January in this state? No, let's go back a month. How many people in this month? Can we differentiate out sickness and deaths that were fully vaccinated? We can't, because that data is no longer being connected. We look back at how the numbers have been counted all along. As a pastor, I've had to bury people that COVID was on their death certificate. Only one of them truly died of COVID. The rest didn't even have symptoms. But it was on it, and they were counted. But that's the statistics we're going to use to base our fear tactics. I have all the feeling in the world for those that need health care that are now struggling to get it. I have understanding. But we don't trust each other because everybody is getting overwhelmed from all directions. What is truth? Well, let's get the real numbers before we start doing. And that's what makes me disgusted about employers. Catholic Christian employers mandating their employees get a shot or lose their job.
All right. So, do we have a hospital administrator here that wants to give us the perspective? Where is that? Yeah. Can you come up and just... So,
I'm Adam Brax, the CEO at Silent Springs Regional Hospital, and also the Physician Specialty Hospital in Fayetteville.
All right.
So our policy is that we honor freedom, absolutely, but we do believe that the vaccine decreases the possibility of you contracting COVID-19.
All right. And so Does your hospital treat COVID patients?
Yes, sir.
And what's your capacity now?
We are at maximum capacity right now.
And is that because of COVID or because of other health needs?
We have, it's both. We've got significant COVID-19 diagnosis. We have patients on hold in the emergency department because of COVID. And the challenge with COVID is that they're long lengths of stay. So it slows down the operations of our hospital, and as a result, we maximize our capacity. Our limiting factor is registered nurses. We need more nurses.
Okay. Thank you. You know, I could elaborate. Just, you know, the statistics, I believe it's 14% of our hospitalizations across the state are COVID. So this means 86% of those in the hospital are there for other health needs. But the doctor's point is that COVID is there for a long time. They take up ICU space, and because with other health needs have been postponed, there is a difficulty of adequate space in the hospital for treatment of everything right now. Is that right, doctor?
I'm not a doctor, but I'm the CEO. Absolutely. So
yeah. And
we are at capacity. So we're at the point where we struggle to accept more patients because we don't have enough nurses to meet those needs.
All right. So, who's next? Where are we? Who's next?
I thank you for coming to Siloam Springs to hear us. And, you know, we are a little riled up around here. We have complied. We have masked our kids. You know, we've done a lot to help flatten the curve, as they say. But my question to you, Governor, and I do believe that you care, why aren't you talking about the therapeutics? Why are we only talking about the vaccines? Governor, my whole family had COVID, okay? And my mom is elderly, and she got more sick than the rest. We all got pretty sick. But let me tell you something. All of us took the therapeutics from day one. And if doctors were allowed to tell the truth and treat their patients with these therapeutics, we would not have hospitals full of sick people dying, okay? Don't smirk at me, Governor. You should care on both sides of the aisle on what works, what will save lives, Governor, and it's not the vaccine. We know nothing about them, but we know about therapeutics. We know ivermectin works. We know hydroxychloroquine works. We know all of these other medications that are out there that have been suppressed, and doctors are literally losing their license if they prescribe it. You should care, whatever it takes, save lives, Governor, okay? But you're not talking about that. You're going around doing these town halls, and all you want to talk about is the numbers and the vaccines. Well, you know what? There's other things to talk about. Tell the truth about the therapeutics from your platform, that people will listen to you.
May I speak?
Hospitals will start treating people.
May I speak?
Yes, you can.
I've had daily news conferences over a year ago, and I talked at first about testing. I talked about what we needed at the time, and then we talked about therapeutics. And yes, the therapeutics has been absolutely essential. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, I do talk about it, but so you had the microphone. May I respond? All right, so I've talked about therapeutics. It's very important. We have the therapeutics in the hospitals. That's how they treat patients, is therapeutics. They treat patients, the doctors treat patients, and so they have access to it. And for a while, there was a great shortage of therapeutics. That's why I'm on the phone to the White House getting therapeutics and trying to get access for our medical community. They have the therapeutics now, absolutely. But there is also, if you believe that vaccines are important, as many people do, then that's what we need to stop having to use the therapeutics and to get over COVID, just like we got over smallpox in our country. All right. How are we doing on therapeutics? Shh. All right. Well, that's why you asked me to ask the administrator of the hospital. I will do that. So where's the administrator? But the question is to the administrator, do you all have therapeutics, and do you use therapeutics in the hospital for COVID patients?
Not presently, sir.
What's that? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay. I'd have to touch base with the hospital and clarify our position on that one, sir.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is we've got patients in our hospital right now that are severe and they need our help. So I do encourage you respectfully, please get vaccinated. We know that's the answer.
We have a doctor from Gentry here. Doctor, do you want to comment or not? All right, we have a doctor here from Gentry I'd like to hear from.
I'm so glad everyone's here today. This is amazing. I have these conversations about 30 times a day. So none of the things I'm hearing today are unknown to me working here in the community. The hard thing about answering all these questions on a daily basis is sometimes lack of good evidence. Something that when we went to school we had to rely on in order to give the best treatment to our patients. With ivermectin, with hydroxychloroquine, there's mixed data. It's hard to find concrete education from our resources to be able to counsel our patients. It is very difficult to treat everybody in the room because of differing knowledge, differing opinions, and just differing knowledge of even the doctors that are here. Not all of us take the time to research these things. Not all of us are able to get the information we need. Some of the things I have trouble with are finding the accurate information. And that's very difficult for me because I get these conversations in my office 25 times a day. So I would like to have more direction from the Arkansas Department of Health with a little more transparency. Exactly.
So ma'am, this gentleman was speaking.
I have attended Zoom conversations with you, Dr. Romero, and you are awesome. You have a lot of knowledge, and I respect you very much. This man has done a lot of research. He has a lot of information. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get that out to us here in smaller towns. You guys trust us that work here. But it's hard to continue that trust and that relationship when we can't give you all the right information. And we are there. We are there.
All right.
It's tough. Thank you.
So Jeremy, who's next? Y'all have to help me identify who's had their hand up for a long time. So we'll go there, and then we'll come over here to this gentleman. Where's Stephanie? We're going to go over here next. All right, Jeremy, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm originally from SILOAM, but I live in Springdale now. The one thing that I've been so stressed out with on this COVID is that government officials don't listen to John Q. Public out there. All they do is listen to these experts. I've got experience in some of this stuff. I don't know if you know what Legionnaire's disease is, but all of this stuff has to do, one of it thing it has to do with is the ventilation system. Everything gets circulated around through here and gets passed out on to other people. It's like in a prison. How does prisoners get it from visitors? They got a wall between them. It's because they use the same ventilation. How does a guy in solitary confinement catch it? Because he uses the same ventilation. And I've been having so much trouble trying to talk to government officials because I'm not the expert, but I've got experience. I've talked to Jennifer Dillhay, I've talked to all my congressmen, but that's as far as it goes. I've talked to your assistants.
Sounds like you've had pretty good access.
No, I've talked to your assistants, and that's it. I mean, once they hear me out, that's it. You don't even hear about it. But there are things that I've got experience in, I guarantee you would eradicate a lot of this stuff. But like I said, nobody will listen to the public like this.
Thank you. The ventilations is very, very important as we go back to school. I think we got a school superintendent here. Are we ready with is ventilation an important factor as you get back to school?
Yes, sir. It is. Yeah. And we have money from ESSER funds to make some improvements. Our newer buildings bring in a lot of fresh air by state requirements, and so we have very good ventilation. We are giving our bus drivers and our teachers opportunity to open windows and get ventilation in the classroom.
All right, thank you for letting me jump in there, but we agree, ventilation is important. All right, so I try to keep these at an hour, but no, everybody's hand that's up, if you have not spoken, everybody's hands up right now was a lot. If we can keep, I'd like to hear quickly, but we do want to be able to conclude this because it's right in the middle of the day. So we were going to go right here, and then we'll come back side.
I have 2 comments and a question. So I'll start with the question for Dr. Romero. This camera guy's in the way. Earlier this month, the Arkansas Department of Health got rid of the distinction in the data between confirmed and probable cases. I called and asked if we can get that data because that's how I've been kind of making some spreadsheets, and it's hard to do when that's combined. Why was that removed, and is it something that we can get back? Can we have a little bit more transparency there? I think another item that was lost was the percentage of full ICU beds. That was something else that we've lost this month, and that seems like a pretty relevant data point that we should have access to. Is there a way for us to get better, kind of unfiltered access to that data? Another comment is about the woman over here with the kids talking about fetal cells and things like that. That would be a lot easier if we had a strong RFRA in this state, and I think we don't. And then my third comment is, with the vaccine issue, our health isn't your responsibility. I'm not holding you to responsibility for my health. You have neither of you do. I'm responsible for it, my family, my doctor, not you all. So let us make our decisions, treat us like adults, give us the data that we can use to make those decisions, unfiltered, and then I think we'll be fine. The other thing is, you may not set, here's everybody in the state needs to be vaccinated. You obviously haven't done that. But there are these social engineering techniques that you're using. One of them was shame, somebody mentioned that earlier. Another one is working with employers, these public-private partnerships. Walmart announced that the home office associates have to be vaccinated now. That counts too. That's the same thing. You may as well be mandating it. So just let us do what we want with our own bodies, because that's pre-political. That is not a political issue.
Okay. Well, we just tear out the part of the Arkansas Code that says we have a responsibility for public health. Because there are contagious diseases that we have, and that's, we're to the point that, it is individual decisions, and there's not any mandates that are out there. I can go and not have town hall meetings. I could cancel all my town hall meetings where I listen to people. I think I've learned a lot from these, so I like having that engagement. And it impacts some of the things that we do. But whenever I have ambulances that have people who are waiting to get to the emergency room and they have no place to go, I I can't ignore that. This is a life and death issue for many people, so I do want to take action. All right, we've got some more people to hear from. Right there, right there.
Thank you for being here. I totally appreciate it. It's kind of like you're the punching bag and everybody's at you, but I thank you for standing up and answering questions. Now, it's a town hall meeting. You're here. You want to know how to do things better. And I'm an average Arkansan, even though I didn't only been here 11 years. But it's just more transparency, right? We have lost our trust because, you know, it's not 1950. We can do our own research. We can read a lot of things. Those in the room, which is everyone that are educated, you can read a ton of stuff and you can help. And when we don't get both sides, it's hard to make better decisions for our families. Example, right? The only drum we're hearing right now is the vaccine is the answer. But we're not admitting the vaccine damage that's being done, right? It's happening. Thank God it's not a lot, but it's happening, right? People are getting the vaccine and they're in the hospital fighting for their life. I'm a chiropractor, right? I get to see the moms whose kids have been damaged. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. And when we don't talk about it, those middle-of-the-road folks have a hard time. You know, and the elephant in the room I find interesting is your statistics from June until now that you spoke about of the increase in COVID, but we also had an increase in vaccines. So we don't know the truth. More transparency would help a lot of people.
Well, good point, thank you. And the vaccine report's out there every day. Yesterday, I had the news conference. We covered our full graph, and we talk about what the vaccines, how many doses are out there. We try to put as much data as we can on there, and information is important. All right, let's keep going. I know this lady right here has had her hand up for a long, long time. Let's go.
I've got a very supportive husband. I do appreciate you being here, listening to this, because it takes a lot of courage to get up in front of people who have a passion. I would like to respond to the lady who said something about researching. I would venture to say that the majority of the people who are here in opposition have done their research. I guarantee you that I have done my research. I have two things. One, I wasn't going to get on the vaccine issue. I didn't come for that. I came for the special session that you're calling. I read the article. I'm very distressed about the article. I've written to every single legislator in the state of Arkansas. I did hear back from Robin Lundstrom yesterday telling me that 15-to-1 her emails are running against the mask mandate for children. 5 times more children have committed suicide over the last year than have died from COVID. Isolation, inability to communicate, separation from people because of a mask. They can't hear their teachers. They can't understand what's being said. They are coming home with facial outbreaks. They feel lost. The cure is worse than the disease, sir.
Yep.
You can't just look at the mask as a protection when there are so many other things that are causing detrimental side effects because of the mask. Further, please let me finish. How many times over the last 15 years have schools in Arkansas been shut down because of flu outbreaks? How many times?
So what's the point?
What's my point? We didn't mask all the children and all the teachers and say you can't go to school and you have to sit 6 feet away from each other. We just shut the schools down for a couple days, let the kids get better, let the teachers get better, go back to school.
All right.
Let them take some medicines that work for it. Wait. I've got the microphone. I want to use it for a minute. The Vaccine Adverse Event Response System. 11,405 deaths. That's 1%, according to a Harvard study, of what's actually reported to the CDC. These are CDC numbers. That's from vaccines. Every other time in the history of the United States medical vaccine industry, they've been shut down for what, 25, 35 deaths. We're over 11,000 reported. But I had to say that because the things that have been said here from the pro-vaccine people, it's not true.
Amen.
It's not true, and it is proven by the CDC's reports itself. But the masks, sir, you're way, way, way out of bounds to tell parents they have to mask their children who are at the least risk.
So, now, ma'am, you gave a very, very long statement. Will you let me respond? Thank you. First of all, there's no statewide mask mandate. There's not going to be that. The only issue is in terms of the 12 and under in the school that cannot be vaccinated. They don't have an option there. And so are you going to interrupt continually? So the proposal in the legislation is not to say that those are going to be masked or a requirement for them to be masked. That is not the legislation that's going to be considered. It is simply to give authority to the local school board, government closest to the people, to make a decision, and they can all say, no, we're not going to let our children wear a mask in the school. That would be a local school decision. I have some schools, particularly in South Arkansas, that they would like to have that because they are worried about those 12 and under when we have 24 of that age group in the children's hospital. Actually, 12 of them would be there in the children's hospital with COVID, and they can't be vaccinated. So if we want them to go to school, should school districts have that option? That's an option to the school districts. It is not a mandate to the school district. It's government closest to the people. That is the issue. Now, we've got a number of other people that are here. We've gone over time. If y'all can keep quick statements, I'll let you speak. Now let's go to the next one.
Governor, I got one right here.
Yes. Yeah.
Good morning, Governor.
There's this lady back here, this lady, I mean, I see them waiting a long time, so let's move to them. Stephanie, well, I've got a question over here.
I'll be quick.
All right.
Good morning, Governor. My name's Lisa Welton. I'm from Springdale. I'm a 12-year veteran of the United States Army. I served in the Medical Corps. I served in nuclear, biological, chemical, radiological, and explosives. And my last job was military intelligence. And what all that has to do with it is I do have a servant's heart for my country, and I do appreciate you being here and providing this platform to hear from your constituents. Governor, I was so impressed and inspired by your call on Sunday in your interview with CNN for a balanced approach to what we'll be doing in regard to mask and vaccine mandates. And I appreciate that so much, and I'd just like a quick opportunity to leave some thoughts with the entire group. In regard to fact supporting leaving the current ban on masks in place, and this is something that I have framed up for our school boards and local governments to consider should the legislature pass. But number one, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association in the United States, cases of COVID on children represents 13%. When you look at the base of the total numbers, it is, and I don't mean to minimize the impact this real disease has had on anybody that's suffering.
Yeah, I agree.
But it is very small, especially if you look on a worldwide order where that impact is 3%. There have been World Health Organization guidelines that seemingly have seemed to disappear overnight. Which states, and this is kind of where I want to end it, children under 12 years old should not be masked. I understand that there are variants and science changes, and we have to keep up with the changes, but I don't think that negates any of this body of research, and that's where I want us to be cautious, Governor, and ask for discernment. And my third point, I know I said I was going to ask with the last one. My third point is, can we not look at this on county by county basis? Delaware is a relatively small state. And even our president yesterday had said something that you can go to Delaware without a mask. So can we look at this on county basis?
Well, you can go anywhere in Arkansas without a mask. And we're even going to look at it at a more narrow basis, is by school district. So every school district can make their own decision. And your points are very, very good. And that's a kind of information that should help guide the local school district. Thank you.
School district, and I do want to say that it does make teaching very hard.
Yes.
And if we go back to masks, here's the point. We're going back to the same place, and we're taking the eye and the light off of education, and we're putting it back on contact tracing. Is your mask on? Who have you talked to next? And we're taking kids out of the school for 2 weeks at a time minimum. So school would be disrupted, so my vote would be for no masks.
Well, your goal would be to not wear, so no mask, but whether you have mask or not, if a child is contagious and sick with COVID, there's going to be contact tracing. I mean, that's going to happen whether you have, all right, so over here, question.
Governor, whenever you
No, that's true, it's no with the flu, no.
When most of us have access to internet and we Google influenza, I've done some research, and it says how the flu spreads. It says person to person, of course. People with flu can spread it others up to 6 feet away. Sound familiar? Most experts think the flu virus spread mainly by droplets made when people cough, sneeze, or talk. Okay. These droplets can land on the mouth, nose of people who are nearby and possibly inhaled in the lungs. Less often a person might get the flu by touching surfaces, et cetera, et cetera. My question is, and we'll make a statement, I've had one flu shot in 1998 and I contracted the flu from the flu shot, so I don't get the flu shot. My question is, where are the numbers for deaths by flu? What's happened to the flu?
Well,
because they're kind of the same.
So Dr. Romero, a quick comment on the flu.
So the numbers for death for flu are published every year. They are available to you all. They do cause substantial death, both direct and indirect. It is a significant disease, as is COVID. We publish the information regarding deaths on our website every day and update.
All right, next, right here.
So I guess I want to just ask, how many patients in your hospital that currently have COVID actually received the flu or the vaccine? So do you have those numbers for us? Do you know how many people in the hospitals today actually got the vaccine?
We have national statistics on that. In Arkansas, do we have that information?
We know that 98% of individuals hospitalized have not received the vaccine.
So I'd like to know, like, do you guys actually ask that question when they're admitted?
We have that information based on our...
So you're not going to answer me because you don't know?
No, those are the numbers that we have based on our admissions.
So next question. What came first, COVID or the vaccine? Just curious, because I'm pretty sure that these vaccines, these mRNA vaccines, actually have patents on them. So they were actually patented long before COVID. And I don't think that they were designed to actually get rid of COVID, right? They're actually a totally different kind of messenger RNA vaccine. It has no COVID in it, correct?
All right, so...
Does the vaccine have any COVID in it, like traditional vaccines?
Dr. Romero, do you want to answer that?
The mRNA vaccines, this is a technology. Exactly. It is a technology that you use to make the vaccine. The vaccine contains the genetic material of the virus in order to make the protein that immunizes you and gives you antibodies and protects you. It does not contain the entire virus.
When was it developed?
All right.
I have a question. question. When was it developed?
Well, I'm not, this is, if you make a statement.
I'm asking the doctor, when was it developed, sir?
So these vaccines were developed in the United States, in Germany. There are a number of predecessors to these vaccines. They are a technology that is available worldwide and is being used in multiple countries to develop vaccines.
When was it developed?
All right, so y'all have, I'm out of time. I'm out of time. So one more question right here. One more question. We're 15 minutes beyond time, but I'll take one more question from this lady here.
I have more of a story than a question, just to say that 18 years ago, I took a prescription medication when I was pregnant that my doctor told me was safe. Okay, and I believed him. And then my baby died in my arms. And 3 years later, I saw a commercial on the television that says, if you took this medication while you were pregnant, you are entitled to this compensation. We don't have that protection right now. We have no long-term studies about what is happening. We don't have 3 years out. These were done under an emergency. We have no way to know what these vaccines are going to do. We don't know. And I can tell you that this lady is correct. I'm a mental health professional. Everybody has a waiting list in Northwest Arkansas for counseling because people are depressed and upset and isolated because of everything that has happened in the last couple of years, and the children have had it the worst.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so y'all, I appreciate everybody that's expressed themselves. I think very clearly we got about every viewpoint that's been expressed. I don't know whether this has accomplished anything other than I've heard from you, and that's helpful to know that. Thank you for being here today. We will continue on. Thank you very much.